Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans from a diehard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. I'm an improviser, a writer, actor, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. You know, I actually watched Houston Rockets basketball at the Summit. That's right. Now it's a church, but it used to be a place where zealots would go and pray very frequently. It had more prayers, I think, were happening back then. Look, I don't know. I don't go there. I'm just saying there was a lot of prayer in that house before. Folks, I have been here in Los Angeles for the last decade or so as a comedy writer. And now, well, the career's going great, you can tell, because we're all podcasting out here. That's what happens once you hit 10 years out here in Los Angeles. You start absent-mindedly calling it The 10 instead of I-10. And the governor shows up and gives you podcasting equipment. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a diehard long-term fan of your Houston Astros and other Houston sports teams. Here we aren't doom and gloom casual fans, or worse, the national media haters. We love our teams and root them on, and also try to discuss the ins and outs of them without too much homerism. The key word here, of course, is try. And folks, we are going to be trying today, because on today's episode, are we cursed? Did the Houston sports renaissance get raptured yesterday? Did you all leave and I got left behind? I'm Kirk Cameron out here, just in misery over the current state of our Houston sports. But don't worry, folks, when it is time for emotion, you know your boy, Paul Salazar Jr., aka Space Cadet, is here for you to help you during these dark, troubling times, in times of hot takes and emotional reactions in sports. I try to take the long view. I try to remember that we've elected to be the fans of these teams, and sometimes sports fandom is emotional and disappointing. We'll get to it. I'd like to welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brothers call the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Hey, brothers. Shout out to my brothers. Shout out to Arrested Development fans. If you've never been there before, check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience, depending on your interpretation of my mumbles here. We're recording this transmission, as always, here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined by my co-host and co-producer, the Ross to my Fraser. Carla the dog is here with me today. Longtime listeners of the podcast know that she may get on mic from time to time. I am trying to be reasonable in this sports take world. She's got the hot takes. She will get on mic and bark. She will not be quieted. That's her prerogative. Oh, folks. And yeah, like those of you know, I'm currently coming back from illness. I got the COVID. It's official. So be careful out there, obviously. We are living in a world where very orange, very unhealthy looking men are going out there spouting conspiracy theories to the public and telling them very misguided information. Look, I don't have a sponsor or anything, but for those of you who don't know, I do have a pregnant fiance, Tylenol is known to be safe. I don't understand where all of this craziness is coming from. Go listen to your doctors. Don't listen to a podcaster, right? I've told you time and time again, I'm a comedy podcaster, if anything. So if you're going to listen to one podcaster's opinion, let it be mine here, and get medical advice from medical doctors, not people that are prone to conspiracy or especially podcasters that have no business running this country. Look, so let's just look. We're taking a step back from our political moment now. We live in a crazy world. We live in a crazy time. I don't want to get Jimmy Kimmel here. I don't want them to take my show away. Oh, please, please don't take my show away. I'll cry. Salem the cat cry. Don't take my show away. Folks, let's get back to the sports before our free speech rights are trampled upon. We've got plenty of things to talk about. That's for sure. Last week when we talked, we had a lot more hope. We had a lot more hope about your Houston Astros season. We had a lot more hope about your Houston Texans season, and we even had hope about the Houston Rockets season, which hasn't started, but seems like it's crashing down all around us. You know, why didn't, you know, I've been around long enough now. You know, obviously I said that I've watched Rockets basketball on the Summit. I've been around long enough now to have gone through multiple 921s, all kinds of dates saying the Rapture's coming. You know, has the Rapture actually happened and we are left behind, and this current state of Houston sports is my personal hell? You know, the last we talked, the Houston Astros were tied for the lead in the AL West. Right now, the Houston Astros are out of the playoffs. That's right. That is correct. This is actually correct information coming from a podcaster for once. The Astros are on the outside looking in. Let's look at the standings right now. It is not a fun thing. It is not something that I've been doing frequently the last couple of days here. With Seattle with 87 and 69, they are top of the AL West. And the Houston Astros with an 84 and 72 record are tied for the last wild card spot with Cleveland right now. The next up team would be the Texas Rangers, who are 5 games back of the wild card spot currently. But we did not anticipate the Cleveland Guardians obviously going on a run here. We did not have our rear view mirrors attached the last couple of weeks. We didn't think we'd have to be hand-wringing about the wild card spot, but here we are. Is it time to sound the alarm? Those of you who have been longtime listeners of the podcast know that I am here. I am positive. I am thinking of the long-term view for the Houston Astros. It happens sometimes in a baseball season where things are just miserable, but it hasn't happened to the Astros recently because we are currently, we'll see how the season ends, but we currently have been saying that we are in the golden era of Astros baseball. We'll talk about that more. People are saying it's over. They've been saying it's over for a couple of seasons now. My stance has always been you don't bury the Astros until the season is over, until, you know, they like to play with their backs against the wall. But this current version of the Astros has not stepped up when they have needed to get that last hit with runners in scoring position. You know, and it was tough to watch that Mariners series because there were multiple instances in which the Houston Astros could have had a game-winning hit. You know, it was great to see Jeremy Pena break the series open with some scoring from the Houston Astros with a grand slam, especially after it seemed like the Mariners pitchers were very happy to be throwing up and into the Astros. You know, just really giving us some scares there with Cam Smith. There was another one that didn't hit Jose Altuve, but it was just absolutely atrocious. You know, throwing up and in is part of baseball, but like sometimes you got to tell your pitchers, hey, cálmate, what are you doing out there? Like luckily, emotions didn't run that high that there was fights or anything, but it was just, you know, there was no there was no anger there, you know, outside of the fans being angry, but it was tough to see. It was tough to watch the series just because the Houston Astros constantly had opportunity time and time again to even the odds, to tie the game up or to put the team ahead, and the magic that the Houston Astros have shown in the past with 2 outs late in the game with big game situations on the line just wasn't there. The timely hitting wasn't there. The clutch hitting wasn't there. It was infuriating, and it seemed like the Seattle Mariners also had all the luck, with honestly with some good calls. Throughout the series, there was skeptical. There was some suspect officiating, some balls and strikes happening there. Joe Espada getting ejected out of one of the games with the hitting coach Troy Snitker. It was frustrating, but it was very inconsistent. And that being said, it's like we received some favorable calls. It didn't happen. I'd say if you looked at the scorecard, the Mariners probably were on the receiving end of the calls at the end of the day, but the calls were just inconsistent and all over the place. This is like, it's tough to watch, but that's just part of baseball. The Astros still had opportunity, and that's what's frustrating. So of course, I can complain about the officiating. The balls and strikes weren't great throughout the series. However, at the end of the day, I know this is not the scapegoat. This is not the excuse. Right now, podcasters everywhere are sharpening their pitchforks. They're trying to find the scapegoat. Here, there are some points that we could get to and point some fingers and try to figure out who really is the biggest problem. But, even somebody like Christian Walker, who was taken out of the third game, because he was just he's been in such a slump that they're giving him a little bit of rest here in such an important game. And he even got pinch hit in that third game in a big moment. And I believe he struck out. Yeah. Christian Walker really was highlighted this series as somebody who just did not get the big hit when we needed him to. But is he the scapegoat of the entire season? Do you blame the entire season on Christian Walker? I don't. I think that is, might be a little foolish. We've had so many injuries. We've had so many struggles this season. Pointing out just Christian Walker, while that might have helped here and there, this could be the type of season that ends with just a half a game or a game separating who gets into the playoffs and who doesn't. So this is going to be ripe for all kinds of scapegoat commentary. So I will say to you, there are going to be a dozen reasons why a team is on the outside looking in. I pray it isn't the Houston Astros that are that team. Of course, I think the Astros sadly lost their opportunity to be the masters of their own destiny, but they could still obviously get to the playoffs. However, FanGraphs say that there is going to be a team with a 60+% chance to get to the playoffs that is not going to get in, so that is scary. That is not, with the Houston Astros where they are, that is not going to calm our fan base. So we will get back on the other side of a quick break to talk about where we are in the official Space Cadet Sports Houston Astros panic meter just after this.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm your irreverent host, Paul Salazar Jr. Just checking back in for those of you who are listening at like the 14-minute mark here of the podcast. Welcome. It's time to look at the official Space Cadet Sports Houston Astros panic meter. Folks, most of this summer, people have been panicking. I hadn't. Yeah, we'll see who was right, of course, by the end of the season. But my panic meter was very low here. It was, we got to get our mojo back. Go back out there, get your mojo back, baby. Groovy, baby. Yeah. For those of you who don't know the 25-year-old reference I'm making, that's an old film from classic cinema, Austin Powers. I've been doing something. I mentioned on the podcast that, I have a baby on the way. But something I don't know why I love doing is I love doing the fat bastard voice and just be like, baby, eat more belly, baby. I apologize to all Scottish people. I apologize to Mike Myers and anybody who is a fat bastard. Not the best impression, but I just like doing that voice because some certain voices that I do really disturb Carla and Sarah, my beautiful partner Sarah. Of course, Carla, the dog, co-producer on the show. And I don't know why I torment them with some of my voices, but that is one of them that I've been doing recently. But back to sports, folks. You get to peek behind the curtain sometimes and learn about my personal life here on the podcast. We don't want to get too far into that. That's boring. Back to sports and the official Space Cadet Sports Houston Astros panic meter here. Folks, it doesn't feel good. Obviously, I said that the Astros would win 90 games this season. If they won 90 games this season, they would be masters of their own destiny, I think, and probably win the AL West easily. Maybe not, the way Seattle's going. Obviously, they have 87 wins, but I think that wasn't too bad of a projection. If you look at the Astros, how many injuries they've dealt with, I want to say like they're on baseball, on The Athletic. They have that little graphic that's been going around. The Houston Astros have lost like 12 WAR this season according to that calculator. So I thought 90 wins, even though a lot of people thought I was being optimistic at the beginning of the season. I thought that was manageable. I thought that was doable. I think if you look back and you have a healthy Yordan, you have a healthy Isaac Paredes, you have a healthy Jake Myers, you probably have a lot healthier of an offensive season. And that's just the offensive side. We're not even that wouldn't even be considering the pitching injuries that this team has had to deal with. And folks, we really could have used some pitching and some offense this past weekend. The official panic meter right now, as it stands, where the Houston Astros are tied for the last wild card spot, and they're kind of don't have control of their own destiny when it comes to the AL West. The official panic meter is boosted up. I have to admit, folks, with all the things that's happening in the Houston Astros, in the Houston sports world right now, this panic meter is you could call it in a 7-Eleven right now, because it's shooting up to be, a quarter up that thermostat, and it's just big gulp. That's how I feel right now. There's a rock in my throat. I don't want to say anything that is too negative. I don't want to say anything that's too positive. But this is a feeling that I have not felt as a Houston Astros fan for like 9 years now. We felt like we were going to win the AL West always. This is a different feeling. The way that the Seattle Mariners have been playing, the way that the Houston Astros have been playing. That team came in here to Houston at Daikin Park and put on a showcase, while the Astros just did not look like they were up to competing in that series. And that's not a good feeling. They need to turn it around. This is a wake-up call. This big gulp is a wake-up call for the Houston Astros. It's now or never for this team. And I've seen this team turn it on in the past. But is it too late? I don't think it is. If they can go out there and sweep a series and win another series, I think that's going to be enough to get them into the playoffs. But the way they played this past week, we don't know what we're going to get out of this offense. So there are some times where this pitching has some problems. This team really has to turn it on. They have to focus up, and it's now or never for this team. But I like the fact that they still have, they have Jose Altuve. They have Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa as a leader on this team to get people. I know the results of the series weren't what we liked from those two guys, but they've been there before. They've seen it. This team has played with the chip on their shoulder. This team has played when everyone expects them to lose. I think I'm still betting on them to figure out a way to get into the wild card and into the playoffs. Now, what they do when they're in the playoffs, that's another story. But right now, I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to get into being negative about the playoffs right now in tournament baseball, because this team can still get hot and still turn it on. This team still has the talent. This team still has the names. They just haven't put it together, and it's infuriating. It's frustrating. Look, I'm frustrated. We'll get to it. I know I normally am positive, but after everything that's been happening, it's been tough to remain positive. We'll get to that at the third act of this show. I have a surprise for you. There's somebody else on the show that wants to talk to y'all. But right now, let's look ahead to the series that starts today. A very important series in Sacramento. That's right. Frustrating that has to be said. But the Houston Astros are taking on the Las Vegas Athletics of Oakland via Sacramento. They're going to have to show up in this series. They're going to have to go out there and get a sweep. They're going to have to play every game with the pressure on them. And how they handle that pressure really is how the season will go. So we are rooting for them in this series. Let's look at our pitching matchups. The Houston Astros will send Christian Javier to the mound against the Athletics in this first game. Christian Javier has had a touch-and-go season so far since coming back from Tommy John surgery. He is 2-3 in 7 games with a 4.45 ERA and 32 1/3 of an inning pitched. 30 strikeouts he's picked up in that time with a 1.24 WHIP. He's had some good games. He's had some tough games. He's had some great innings. He's had some tough innings. We need some consistency from Christian Javier in this to go out there and compete and keep the game within reach for this team. And what that is really dependent on a day-to-day basis from this Houston Astros offense. So we need consistency. We need consistency all around. This inconsistent play from the Houston Astros has got to stop sooner or later, you'd hope. But you're really looking for it to get consistent this last week. It's now or never. They will be going up against Jeffrey Springs, 33-year-old left-handed pitcher for the Athletics. He has had a full season where he's just been eating those innings. He's 10-11 with the 4.17 ERA and 166 innings pitched with 135 strikeouts and a 1.22 WHIP. This guy is your veteran inning eater. I think there's really times where the Astros have some really good success against middling pitchers, and other times they make them look like Cy Young candidates. We're hoping that against a left-handed pitcher, against a guy that's had a long season, they can find some ways to attack what he's been doing this season by just having a lot of tape on him and being able to do well against left-handed pitchers. We're looking for that for the Houston Astros. After that, it's going to be TBD versus TBD for the Houston Astros and the Athletics in that Wednesday game. And Thursday, there is a matinee game there where it is TBD versus TBD yet again. We swept the Rangers, and that felt great. Got swept by the Mariners, and that might be the lowest point of the Houston Astros for the Houston Astros fan base in like 9 years. I know there's been some lost playoff series for sure, but as a regular season moment, that had to be one of the lowest moments. I know some of y'all are still reeling from that. Just know that losing regularly comes with baseball fandom, and we've just been spoiled by an amazing team on an amazing run. These Seattle Mariner fans have not had anything to really cheer for in the last 2 decades. So we're really spoiled as fans. I know it's hard to see another fan base just they've been frothing at the mouth, ready to dunk on us for quite some time. Let little brother enjoy his moment. Right now, we have to focus up on the games that are ahead of us. And honestly, winning these games against the bottom dwellers of the AL West is imperative for these Astros. They're going to have to win every single game is really what I'm calling for. I am calling for 2 sweeps. I know it's a big ask, but right now with the last week of the season, what else are we to do? What else are we to do? Astros, you've put us here. You put yourselves here. So these last games on the road, we're going to be watching with great interest. Folks, we're going to take one more quick break. Sadly, that's not all we have to talk about in the Houston sports world right now. We have to talk about your Texans. We have to talk about your Rockets. And we're going to do that after a quick break. We'll be right back.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Welcome back, folks, to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salazar Jr., and we are resetting the podcast to talk about... I got a Duolingo notification telling me that my 57-day streak is on fire. I know I did my Duolingo. Why are you bothering me during my podcast report, Duo the Owl? Ugh. Why am I giving them free advertisement? I don't know. Look, folks... I think I'm just vamping because I do not want to talk about your Houston Texans losing a game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was a tough Sunday all around. Oh my goodness. I lost my fantasy matchup. I'm now 2-1 on the season. Wait, I won my fantasy matchup. That's right, sorry. I'm so negative that I have retroactively told myself that I lost my fantasy matchup when I won by points, by mere points. Oof. Guys, I feel bad. Shout out to Allison. She was a very formidable opponent. But I won. I won the game on a David Montgomery game this week. David Montgomery having 30 points in my half PPR league, 30.9, almost getting me 31 points, putting me just slightly over Allison this week. I apologize for that. I needed the win. I was angry. Cheering on David Montgomery. For just more and more points. I was like the Kylo Ren meme. More. I apologize. I had to take my frustrations out somewhere. I did have that in my pick'ems pool. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do a pick'em this week. I was 11-5 on week 3, finally having a good week. I didn't record it. Maybe that's what I have to do, is not record it. But Paul's picks will be back this week for week 4. I apologize for getting COVID. Now, it makes more sense now that I know I had COVID. I definitely was not doing well. It was very difficult to do many of the things that I have to do. So in retrospect, I'm glad I finally got some. Look, go to the doctors. Get medical treatment. Those medicines, the things help. They make you better quicker. So don't be like me. Once you're feeling sick, go straight to the doctor. But look, folks, we have plenty of things. We have plenty of things to talk about besides the Texans just losing. Just absolutely losing. Oh, gosh, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This game killed me. This was, like everybody's like, oh, the Texans are going to get right against the Jaguars. Not necessarily. No, not necessarily, folks. It was a tough week for the Houston Texans. I'm currently pulling up some stats. I thought I had it already up. There's a panic meter here for which 3 teams should be worried right now, and I think one of them is going to be the Houston Texans, losing 17-10 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The offense is looking pretty bad. It's been a tough one, and today it has been announced that the Texans will release safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. CJGJ did not last long with the Houston Texans. There's been some friction behind the scenes with CJGJ and the Houston Texans. He complained about his role. He's been wanting the team to blitz more. He's been very critical of his teammates. So as at 0-3, this is not the start of our season for the Texans, for the fans, or for CJGJ. And now it looks like they're moving on. MJ Stewart is next in line, another abbreviated name there. Just as a reminder, Houston traded away Kenyon Green to Philadelphia as part of the deal. And, of course, Kenyon Green is no longer with the Philadelphia Eagles either. So, this is not one of those trades that it looks like anybody's losing. It looks like both teams are moving on from people, and both teams are moving on from the people the other team moved on from. Obviously, it's not ideal. I don't know a lot about the CJGJ story. I'm only repeating what other people have reported. So these are not my facts. This is Yahoo Sports letting me know about this. But yeah, I really, this is not what you want. You don't want drama. You don't want friction. You don't want this inept offense. I don't know what we're going to do, folks. This offensive line obviously doesn't look right. This offensive scheme doesn't look right. There's nothing that seems to be clicking with this team right now. they have a game against the Tennessee Titans coming up, and this is a get-right game if there is a get-right game. But the Titans' defense is sturdy, folks. This is not a team. Every team in the NFL should be taken seriously, even if they are in the AFC South. So we will see. But right now, all of the positivity around the Texans has slowly soured and turned into something else. And now it is anger, it's frustration, and we're looking at a team that is trending down instead of trending upwards. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. I don't know what to say, folks. It's just not good. We'll talk about the Texans more on the Paul's Picks podcast episode. But right now, being 0-3 at the bottom of the AFC South, when the Indianapolis Colts are 3-0, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 2-1, this next game against the Titans is huge. This is a must-win. The way the Astros are in a must-win situation, the Texans are in a must-win situation as well. And, folks, it ain't good. And speaking of it ain't being good, Fred VanVleet for the for the Houston Rockets has an ACL tear and is sidelined for most of the 2025-2026 seasons for the Houston Rockets, and that leaves a huge hole at point guard now. With Jalen Green gone, it looks like it's Reed Shepherd time. It also looks like Amen Thompson might be used more as a playmaker. But either way, no matter what young star you're looking for having a breakout role here and having a breakout year, even though Amen Thompson definitely already had a huge breakout year, they're hoping for an offensive breakout year for the young man. No matter who you're cheering for, Reed Shepherd or Amen Thompson, at the end of the day, being without Fred VanVleet is not a key to success for the Houston Rockets. It's a bad feeling. It's a bad vibe. There's been talks of Patrick Beverley working out with the Houston Rockets, stuff like that. But, even I love Pat Bev as a player, as a competitor, for all the hate that Pat Bev can get from a lot of podcasters and people. I like Pat Bev. I say he's one of those guys like Dylan Brooks. You love him when he's on your team, but you despise him when he's not on your team. That's just the way it is sometimes. But obviously, Pat Beverley, he's not at a point in his career where you feel like, okay, well, with that guy on our team, he could easily take over for Fred VanVleet. I think there might be a role for him on the Rockets. I just don't think it's going to be if it's a role that we would need to depend on him very much. That would feel like that wouldn't feel very. It wouldn't be confident building for our season for the Houston Rockets. With all this being said, with all the things that's happening, usually I'm your positive voice. Usually I'm the guy trying to tell you it's going to be okay. Keep your head up. It's okay, baby. Calm down, my babies. I'm here for you. It's tough. This episode has been really tough for me because I am feeling down. But, there's somebody who feels worse than me, and we're going to bring him on the show right now from the 200-acre wood. Look, this guy, he's from a completely different place. He is not like Eeyore whatsoever. This is Yorey. Yorey, I hear you're a big Houston fan, and lately, this past week hasn't been really good for you. Is that correct?
That's correct. Nothing has gone my way.
Oh no, Yorey, I'm so sorry. You sound really, really sad, Yorey. Yorey, I'm here trying to be positive for a lot of the fans out there. How do you feel about the Houston Astros?
Well, once again, they let me down. I guess the golden era is officially over, not just for baseball, but for my life.
Oh no, Yorey, no. Yorey, it's just baseball. You can't. Your life still has plenty of golden eras left in it, my man. You can't be like that.
Why not? If the Astros aren't good, then neither am I.
What? No, Yorey, look, you have to be good. You have to have some sense of morality about you, right? You can't just say because the Astros aren't good, you're not. You got to be positive about some things.
But without Fred VanVleet's ACL, I just don't think that I could go on much longer.
No, Yorey, you have to go on. You can't just stop trying because Fred VanVleet doesn't have an ACL.
And without CJGJ, I just don't think I could look at myself in the mirror anymore.
No, Yorey, don't do it. It sounds like you're clinically depressed, Yorey.
I still can't find my tail.
You can't find your tail?
No, I think I lost it. The same way I lost a bet about Christian Walker being an all-star this season.
Oh, no, Yorey, you're sports gambling? Yorey, look, this might be part of the reason why you're so depressed. How much have you lost in daily sports gambling?
Paul, I'll have you know I lost my fortune. All of the money that Disney gave me.
What? Disney gave you money?
Yeah, in an out-of-court settlement. And a cease and desist because I was parodying their IP.
Oh no, Yorey, don't look. Are you gonna get me in trouble? I don't have Disney money, man.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is it because of Jimmy Kimmel and you had to lose your job as a comedy writer?
No, Yorey, look. You're kind of a bummer. It seems like you're also potentially a litigious landmine for me. So I'm going to thank you for being on the show, but you're just kind of bringing us all down, Yorey. Look, I'm sure...
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm sure I'll be back never.
Yorey, look, we'll have you back. Maybe we'll just have you back on a day where there's better news, because you, honestly... I'm going to check in with you later, okay? I'm going to give you a text and make sure you're okay, because I'm a little worried about you. We're concerned.
Thanks for the concern. You're the only one that cares about my emotional well-being.
Oh, God. Okay, well, yeah, I'll definitely be checking in with you later, but just for the sake of my listeners and for the sake of the FCC, we are going to ask you to go, Yorey. Goodness. Look, if you are like Yorey, or you have some friends like Yorey, and you guys are just very sad, look, I get it. Sports is our outlet, and when sports is not making us happy, it could be infuriating. It can make you really sad. It can make you really frustrated. For me, what I do in these situations, I remember that life is much bigger than sports. And honestly, it sounds lame, but you kind of have to do that gratitude journal thing and just kind of look around for the things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my dog, Carla. Like, honestly, I don't know where my life would be without having a friend like Carla in it. And she's over here sitting next to me, wagging her tail. She's going to drink her water during this moment. But, it's little things like that. Just thinking about the things that you're happy about. Go on a walk. Go do some things that you enjoy, whatever some of those hobbies may be. Go do something that's going to fill you with some positivity, because we're going to need all the positivity we can get for this Astros series that starts today. I want y'all right there with me, enjoying this game, excited to see if these Astros can actually do it and turn this season around before it's too late. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it, smash all of those buttons for me. We are a small podcast and only go as far as our listenership takes us. We are supported by listeners like you. So please share with the Houston fan or Australian in your life and give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen. Oh my gosh, I forgot to wish a good day, mates. But it isn't too late. Good day, mates, to all my listeners out there. Please give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening to this podcast on. Check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can get every podcast and every article emailed to you for free on that Substack. If you're a premium subscriber, we are trying to figure out what exactly those perks are going to be, because it is just a way to support the podcast. So if you want to support me and Carla, please be a premium subscriber, but don't be shy to sign up for all of those podcasts there at the Substack. Merch is here. We have Cam Smith aircraft carrier hats, Don't Sleep on Houston hats, and of course Carla the dog hats and H-Town Blue. You can find that at paulsalazarjr.net, because I'm nothing but net. Reach out on social media, let me know your take, let me know if you are like Yorey. If you are feeling really sad and you could use some cheering up, let me know on social media at Space Cadet Sports, at Space Cadet Sports, at bsky.social, or you can call in at SpeakPipe, that's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Carla, it's okay. She's ready for this podcast to be over, and I am too. If you're like Carla and you're ready for this podcast to be over, but you still like me, you could find me making weird jokes, art, memes, podcasts, and so much more at Paul Salazar Jr. Once again, my website's paulsalazarjr.net. Because I'm nothing but net, you can find my other Substack and all my other nonsense if you're nasty. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.
Everyone always forgets my birthday.